Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amanda Blase, and I will be presenting for you today the writing principles. Okay, first we're going to get started with just the background of NSC grades R to 12 stipulates policy on the curriculum and assessments in the schooling sector. A single comprehensive CAP document developed for each subject to replace subject statements, learning program, and subject assessment guidelines in the grades of R to 12. So next we're going to delve into the writing process. So the writing process consists of 6 stages, which are namely planning, drafting, revising, editing, conferencing, and finally presenting or publication. Okay, so the writing process, starting from the pre-writing or the planning, which basically talks about how you're going to sit and do mind maps basically and brainstorm and make a list of the important information that you would like to put in your writing. And then the second stage being drafting, okay, which is pretty similar to the pre-planning, but here this is where you put a lot more content and you start constructing properly your writing. So you jot down the ideas, you have more or less an idea of your audience and what tone you might want to use with them. Is it formal or informal? And then moving on to the next stage, which is revising. So at this stage, you've constructed your writing, your piece. So now you want to add some things, or maybe even delete a few other things, maybe rethink your message. So this is basically the construction of your writing. Conferencing is whereby you have a friend or peer or teacher as your soundboard, where somebody can actually take your writing and read it for you so that you get a gist, or you can gauge as to, is this the type of message I want to convey with my writing? And they can also have an opinion about your writing too. Editing stage is where you basically look for grammatical errors and you basically polishing your work. And then finally we have the publication stage, whereby you can use various types of mediums, whether it be publishing it on a blog or maybe a book or any type of medium, basically where you want your writing to be read by your audience. Okay, so we're going to be moving along to the differences between an essay and transactional writing. Okay, so transactional writing basically is writing that has a purpose. Okay, it is formal writing and it gets things done, and it's needed mainly after school. So this is predominantly in the working environments, whereby you might be typing reports, business letters, or taking minutes in a meeting, or even making a memorandum for staff. It's that type of writing. Moving on to the essay. Essay basically is directed by the task words and the keywords. So when you're looking at how to construct an essay, you look at those two main things. So the task word being what to do with the content, and the keywords being what the topic is about. And then after you have that directive, you gather all of your information. Okay, whether it be you get your information on the internet, or journals or notes, and essays are generally written in school. Now we're going to be moving along to an example of a formal writing, of a formal letter rather. So a formal letter, here on the screen you can see on the right hand side is an example of a formal letter. So when somebody is at the pre-writing stage, you need to know exactly what you're going to be saying in the letter. Okay, and you need to just jot down those ideas. As we said before, you need to do your mind map and just form a list of the main points that are basically going to be constructed in the main body of the letter. Okay, so on the drafting phase, you continue on writing the main points. Okay, and now we look at the other different aspects of who this letter is going to be addressed to. Since it's formal, obviously there's going to be a formal register and tone, no use of any slang or anything like that. And yes, you will also have a look at just getting different ideas on what your main message is about and who your audience is. Obviously, if it's a formal letter, it's going to have a formal register and tone. And moving on to the revised stage. So you look at the letter, add examples. Basically, as you can see here, on the formal letter at the top, on the right hand side at the top, you have the address of the person that you are writing the letter to, and then here, if you look at the bottom on the left hand side, it says sir. So obviously there's that continuation of a formal tone. So when you're writing to a male, you will address them as sir. If you're writing to a female, you'll obviously address them as ma'am or madam. Okay, it's keeping up with the rules of what a formal letter should be like. Okay, so one of the final stages of your letter, you're going to be proofreading, checking for grammatical errors on the letter, just to see if everything is in order and if it's structured well, and also just to check, just to polish it up. Then the conferencing stage, you're going to be reading it out to maybe your peer, your co-worker, or whoever would like to actually see your writing. Then finally you can the stage of publication, you can actually send the letter to that person that it's addressed to via post or email or any other type of medium like that. Okay, moving on to our other example of a discursive essay. So a discursive essay basically has a particular format it goes by. So as you can see there on the right hand side of the screen, you start off with your introduction, secondly your supporting arguments, and then on the third stage you need evidence for these supporting arguments, fourth stage being your counter arguments, and then finally your conclusion. Okay, so with the pre-writing, you need to think about what will be the essay be about. Okay, you need to draft it, also putting in your supporting arguments as part of that with the evidence, and then you move on to your revise stage where you reorganize, review, modify your essay, and add more counter arguments if you may as well. So the proofreading part of your discursive essay will also be your grammatical errors, editing and improving the style and the clarity of it, and sort of tightening up the arguments. And it needs to go in a sequential sort of methodical way in terms of starting off from supporting arguments, the evidence of the supporting arguments, and then finally the counter arguments. Okay, so once you've done all of that, you can have your peer obviously read out your essay for you, just to get a perspective on how, you know, your writing style, your essay has gone, and then finally publish it. This can be by means of you reading it out to the class or your teacher and so forth. So the benefits of writing approaches. Alright, so writing is perceived as a genuine activity, and learners' writing skills develop from this. It is learner-centered, and the learner is responsible for their work at all times. So there are challenges within the process of writing, and a few are namely learners typically want to choose only creative writing and tend to not explore all the other different types of writing, which puts them at a disadvantage because they're not developing those skills fully. And not all writing follows the same process as well.